So for our final concert of the season, this is now number 7. Of course, this is not part of our regular subscription season. Our regular subscription season has 6 concerts. But thanks to the incredible generosity of Patrick Park, we've been able to add a 7th. In fact, when you think about the growth of a great orchestra, it's wonderful for us to have an opportunity to create more music for our phenomenal community. We have such an extraordinary orchestra, wonderful hall, great players. And to have a little more depth of performances is really great. So we're so grateful to Patrick for enabling us to do this 7th concert. We've done a few interesting things with this. First, one of Patrick's close friends is Kevin Kenner. Kevin is a remarkable pianist, having won prizes at both Van Cliburn and the Chopin competition. He teaches at the University of Miami, plays chamber music and concerts all over the world, and probably especially known for Chopin. I mentioned that with Garrick Olson earlier because Garrick also was a winner at the Chopin competition. In this case, I really wanted Kevin to play a Chopin work. Now, Chopin wrote quite a bit of music, but almost all of it was for piano. Very little for anything else. He wrote 2 piano concertos when he was very young. The second concerto that we're going to hear, he wrote when he was 20. It was the first concerto. Here we go again. You know, the Beethoven first and second. Well, now the second concerto of Chopin was written before the first concerto, but it's the second concerto. And when we think of Chopin, we think of, he obviously was from Poland, but quickly, when he was very young, emigrated to Paris. He was the, what you call a boyfriend, I don't know what the appropriate term anymore, of George Sand, the great writer. He was part of that salon environment that existed in Paris in the early part of the 19th century. He was born in 1810. You know, think about it. Mendelssohn was born in the same, Chopin was, I think, Chopin was 10, Schumann was, they were all born around the same time. And he was among the most innovative of composers. He was a great pianist, but pretty much only did, I think, 30 public concerts. And very early in his young life, he stopped playing in public. He still played in the salons in Paris, but basically he tried to make a living as a composer. Not so simple. Rachmaninoff, that we talked about earlier, he couldn't make a living as a composer. He had to play piano concertos. Nowadays, most composers teach at universities, almost all of them. Theophanides, for example, is teaching at Yale. It's difficult to make a living just from writing music, And but Chopin really didn't want to play concerts anymore. He was supported by a number of patrons to make that possible. The orchestration, remember we talked about how the notes are put into the orchestra of the 2 concertos were probably not by Chopin, but by others. We're not exactly sure who. These orchestrations are very simple and straightforward, nothing colorful about them, as we talked about in Ravel and Debussy. There's nothing of that big dialogue that we talked about in Brahms and Dvorak and Beethoven. It's really a solo for the piano, and I love them. A lot of conductors don't like conducting these because it's hard. The soloists play with great freedom, and you have to find your way. But the music is so beautiful, it's so glorious, and when you have a great pianist like Kevin Kenner, it's just something that I'm very excited and very much looking forward to. The program begins with the Brahms Academic Festival. The Brahms Academic Festival was written in 1880, and he was given an honorary doctorate in Breslau, University of Breslau in Germany, and he was going to write a thank you note. And the head of the music department there said, no, you don't write thank you, you write a piece, write us a symphony. So he didn't write a symphony. He wrote this great overture using a lot of the Latin drinking, university drinking songs, Gaudeamus Musicator, and all those, and then use all those tunes. And now we're doing this in a way that I'm very excited. We're doing this in what we call a side-by-side, which means we, Bobby Symphony, will play this overture, but sitting with us will be students from the area schools, universities, maybe even some amateurs, and we'll have a full stage to play this great overture. It's the most fun. I'm sure you'll love it. And then after intermission, we are going to do arguably the most famous piece of music ever written, the Beethoven Fifth Symphony. The Beethoven Fifth, written in 1808. Beethoven, was the great master. He wrote 9 symphonies, every one a masterpiece. After the 9th symphony, the writing of symphonies in Europe went way down because people didn't know what to do. Brahms wouldn't write his first symphony till he was in his 40s because the shadow of Beethoven was everywhere. The Fifth Symphony has that fake motive, ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum, that we all know so well. And little motive, ba-ba-ba-ba, 4 notes. And from that little motive, he makes a mountain. It's incredible what he does. Even the second theme is based around ba-ba-ba-bum, bum, bum, those same kind of intervals, the same kind of notes. There's nothing to be said except, and this is one of those pieces we talk about, like the Mahler First Symphony, where it goes from darkness, a minor, C minor, I'm not describing it, it's a darker color, to C major in the last movement, the triumphal last movement. This is one of the great masterpieces of all time that I can never conduct enough. I love it so much. It was not successful at its premiere, as I mentioned earlier in one of our discussions, because it was premiered December 22nd in a church, no air, no heat, very difficult. This is the program. Started with the 6th Symphony. Then that takes about 42 minutes. Then a perfido, an aria, 10 minutes. Then a movement of the C major Mass. Then the 4th Piano Concerto, another 35 minutes. Intermission. The 5th Symphony, the Sanctus and Benedictus from the C major Mass. He did a solo improvisation on the piano. And then the choral fantasy for piano, orchestra, chorus, and I think 6 solos. Can you imagine the length? Not only that, they only had 2 rehearsals. Can you imagine what the performances must have been like? Oh God, it's incredible to think about it. But they survived, and Beethoven certainly survived and became. I remember when reading about the 9th Symphony, and he was going to premiere it in another city other than Vienna because of the problem he had getting the concert hall he wanted. There was a petition by all the major players and the major founders of the city of Vienna to make sure that he does it in Vienna. When he died, I think there were 20,000 people at his funeral, which was basically the whole city of Vienna. I mean, what a master. Also, we should note that he wrote 5 concertos. He stopped writing them probably 5 or 6 years before he died because he wrote them for himself to play. Mozart did the same thing. In fact, most composers did. When he lost his hearing, he couldn't play concertos anymore. He could play the piano, but he couldn't hear the orchestra. So he had to stop playing concertos, and then he stopped writing concertos. Think about that. He wrote all these great symphonies, the 9th Symphony, when he was completely deaf. What a genius. It's extraordinary. And so here we are. How lucky can we be doing this great music? Brahms, Chopin, Beethoven. What a concert. Anyway, we're excited to see you at this add-on, number 7, the thrilling concert with Kevin Kenner and the Beethoven Fifth.